The world filmed his dunks. Nobody filmed what he did in the dark parking lot after, when he met the man who once fought for a flag that forgot him. Subscribe and stay awake. The night was still humming from the echoes of a crowd that had gone home hours ago. The air outside the arena was thick with fog and the faint scent of popcorn and gasoline. The smell of victory mixed with exhaustion. Security lights blinked in rhythmic patterns across the parking lot, scanning rows of empty cars. Somewhere in the distance, a street light buzzed and flickered like it was tired too. LeBron walked slowly, hood pulled up, earbuds dangling but silent. The cheers from the arena were still ringing in his mind, but they didn't sound like celebration anymore. They sounded like noise, manufactured, recycled, predictable noise. He reached the far corner of the lot, the spot where the light didn't quite reach. That's when he saw him. A man sat curled against the concrete wall, wrapped in an old military jacket faded to grey. His hands trembled around a cardboard sign that read, in shaky letters, "Home is just a memory." At first glance, he looked like every other forgotten face that drifted near the stadium after games. The kind people stepped around pretending not to notice. But something about him was different. He wasn't asking for anything. He wasn't even looking up. He was just there, as if the city had exhaled him. LeBron hesitated. For a moment, he thought about walking past. Not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know how to start. What could he say? "I'm sorry the world kept moving while you stopped." He walked closer. "Hey," he said softly. "You are right out here." The man didn't look up. His voice was rough, tired but steady. "Don't worry. I ain't begging. I used to fight for this country. Now I just fight the cold." LeBron stepped closer, crouching beside him. "What's your name, man?" "Derek. Sergeant Derek Miles." "Army." "Yeah. 2 2s. Lost my brothers. Lost my house. Paperwork got lost too. Guess that made it easier to forget me." He'd met thousands of fans, but this was the first man who looked at him like he wasn't a hero. They sat in silence for a while. The stadium behind them glowed like a dying star, the giant LED screen still replaying highlights of the night. LeBron driving to the basket, the crowd erupting, the sponsors flashing their logos. It felt wrong somehow, that glory and abandonment could exist only a few yards apart. LeBron looked down at Derek's shoes, torn, soles peeling. He opened his duffel bag and pulled out a brand new pair of sneakers, still tagged from that week's drop. "Here," he said, placing them gently beside Derek. "At least your feet can stay warm." Derek gave a faint, humorless smile. "You think shoes fix ghosts?" "No," LeBron said, "but maybe they remind you you're still walking." That made Derek chuckle, a dry sound that ended in a cough. LeBron sat down beside him on the cold pavement. "You got anyone?" "Had a wife. She left when I came back different." "Different? You can't go to war, see hell, then come back to grocery lists and small talk. They tell you to move on. You don't move on, you just move." The silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, just real. It wasn't guilt that hit him, it was recognition, the same kind of loneliness that came from being seen but not known. LeBron pulled out his phone, checking the time. Midnight. He should have been halfway home, already in recovery mode for the next game. Instead, he found himself here, sitting with a man whose whole life had become the silence between commercials. He stood, then extended his hand. "Come on, let's get something warm in you. They don't let guys like me in the fancy spots. Then we'll find one that does." They walked side by side through the empty streets, two shadows moving under flickering lights. The city at that hour felt almost quieter, less judgmental. They found a diner near the interstate, the kind that never closes, and always smells like burnt coffee and her. The waitress froze when she saw who walked in. "Is that?" LeBron put a finger to his lips. "Please. No photos tonight." They took a booth in the corner. Derek stared at the menu like it was a foreign language. "Been a while since I ordered anything that didn't come from a can," he said. "Then tonight's special," LeBron replied with a grin. They ordered 2 plates of eggs and bacon, 2 steaming coffees. The silence between them wasn't awkward anymore. It was healing, like 2 instruments finally playing in tune. Derek took a slow sip and said, "You know, they call you a hero. They called me that once too, till I stopped being useful." LeBron looked up from his plate. "They don't decide that, man. They do when they own the story." That line would stay with him longer than any headline ever had. The waitress brought the bill. LeBron pulled out $1,000 and tucked it beneath the plate. On the receipt, he wrote 2 words. Pay it forward. Derek stared at the money. You really think it changes anything? I think it changes the night, LeBron said. And that's enough? For tonight? Yeah. When they stepped outside, the cold bit harder than before. Somewhere across the street, a phone flash went off. A small burst of light that disappeared just as fast. LeBron didn't see it. Derek did. Someone's always watching, Derek murmured. Let him, LeBron said. They never catch the parts that matter. He offered Derek a ride, but the man shook his head. You already gave me more than the system ever did. A reason to look up again. They clasped hands, firm, silent, human. Then Derek disappeared into the night, swallowed by fog, and the sound of distant traffic. LeBron got in his car, turned on the engine, and sat there for a long time before driving off. No music, no phone, just the steady rhythm of the road. When he finally got home, he placed his sneakers by the door, the same kind he'd given away. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like an athlete. He felt like a person who had seen something holy. He thought the moment belonged to the night, that by sunrise, the world had stolen it, polished it, and sold it as a story he didn't recognize. By morning, his phone was already shaking on the nightstand. Mentions, notifications, thousands of them. When he opened the screen, every timeline screamed the same thing in different fonts. LeBron James spotted, helping homeless man after game. There it was. The picture. Him kneeling beside Derek outside the diner, a neon sign flickering overhead. The world frozen into a single frame that didn't belong to either of them anymore. It looked poetic. It looked staged. He stared at it for a long time, expression blank, heartbeat flat. The comments scrolled faster than he could read. What a hero. Publicity stunt, 100%. He probably told his PR team to leak it. Someone even wrote, bet those shoes were sponsored. He tossed the phone onto the couch and rubbed his face. Outside, the city was already awake. News vans humming, drone cameras circling, radio hosts laughing about LeBron's midnight miracle. He had given one man warmth. The world wanted proof it was real. At breakfast, his PR manager called before he could sip his coffee. Bron, this is going viral. In the best way. Nike wants to tie it to a new campaign. From the court to the streets. It'll crush online. You're missing the point, he said quietly. No, we're building it. You don't have to post anything, just approve the message. It wasn't a message. It was a meal. There was silence on the line, then a forced laugh. You're an inspiration, man. Don't overthink it. Click. He sat there for a minute staring at the steam rising from his untouched mug. It wasn't the first time the world had rewritten his story, but it was the first time it had rewritten kindness. By noon, every talk show in the country had queued up the same footage. Hosts smiled into the camera, voices drenched in NBA superstar LeBron James was caught doing something incredible last night, feeding the homeless. They replayed the photo again and again, slow zoom, piano music. Then came the commentary. Is this the kind of leadership America needs? Or is this just another PR move? He watched from the locker room, arms crossed, jaw tight. They had turned something sacred into a segment. The world didn't want kindness. It wanted content, and content never stays human for long. That evening, his agent texted, press wants a quote, keep it light, positive. He typed, deleted, retyped. Finally, he wrote back, tell them I said nothing, but silence in his world was just another form of noise. By morning, they'd filled it for him. LeBron breaks silence. Actions speak louder than words. LeBron's humble response melts hearts. Insiders say LeBron's team planned it for weeks. He turned off his phone, but the hum of narrative still buzzed in his head like static. Meanwhile, Derek was gone. The diner waitress recognized him from the picture. Reporters kept coming, she said when LeBron stopped by. He stopped showing up, said he didn't want to be anyone's lesson. Her voice cracked. He looked proud when you were with him, like someone finally saw him. Then the cameras came. LeBron thanked her and left cash on the counter. Outside, he leaned against the cold brick wall and looked at the spot where they'd sat together. The same spot the photo had turned into a billboard for hope. He had tried to make one man visible. Instead, the world erased him with attention. Days blurred into headlines. A morning show called it the feel-good moment America needed. An opinion piece accused him of weaponizing sympathy. Sponsors rushed to print his silhouette beside slogans about kindness. Even the league turned it into a halftime montage. Athletes making a difference. The music swelled, the crowd applauded, and LeBron sat on the bench, staring at the jumbotron, feeling sick. After the game, he walked past the reporters who shouted, "Any update on the homeless man?" He answered quietly, "You mean the human being?" No one printed that. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying Derek's words. "You think shoes fix ghosts?" He'd thought the answer was no. Now he wasn't sure anything could. Around 2 a.m. his phone buzzed. An unknown number. A message. "You don't know me. I served with Derek. He saw the video. He said he's ashamed. Said you didn't deserve this." LeBron's pulse quickened. He texted back immediately. "Where is he?" No response. He drove aimlessly for hours. Underpasses, bus stations, corners where invisible lives existed only until morning light. Every time he saw a blanket on the sidewalk, he slowed down. Every time it wasn't Derek, a small piece of the night in him dimmed further. When dawn finally came, he pulled over near the river, rolled down the window, and let the cold air hit him full in the face. He whispered. They took a moment of truth and turned it into marketing. He didn't know who he's talking to, the city, the camera, or himself. For the first time he understood that the world didn't hate lies, it hated truth. It couldn't sell. By mid-morning, a new headline broke across every outlet. LeBron breaks silence on charity controversy. He hadn't said a word, but silence apparently was just another statement waiting to be monetized. He turned off his phone and stared out the car window as the city came to life again. Billboards of his own smiling face, staring back at him, each one selling hope for a price. He wondered how much longer his name could be used to cover the world's conscience. At a red light, a little boy waved at him from the sidewalk. He rolled the window down. "You really helped that soldier, Mr. LeBron." "Yeah," he said softly. "But I think he helped me more." The boy smiled. "Mum says good people don't need cameras." LeBron smiled back. "Your mum's right." The light turned green, but he didn't drive yet. He sat there watching the boy disappear into the crowd, thinking about how easily the smallest truths vanished in big city. He didn't know it yet, but somewhere out there, Derek was alive, and the next time they met, it wouldn't be by chance. For days he drove. No cameras, no entourage, no GPS, just the road, the map of a country he'd spent a lifetime representing but barely seen. He passed small towns where his face still glowed from billboards smiling above slogans about hope and excellence. They looked like gravestones to him now, reminders of a version of himself that belonged to someone else. Each stop was the same. He'd ask if anyone had seen a man named Derek Miles. Army jacket, quiet eyes, carried the weight of something unseen. Sometimes they nodded politely. Sometimes they asked for selfies. No one knew the man he was looking for. He had spent 20 years being everywhere, but never where it mattered. In Memphis, he stopped at a veterans shelter. The director recognized him instantly. "You're not here for PR, are you?" "No," LeBron said, "just someone who deserves to be found." The director said, "We get a lot of men like him. Paperwork lost, families gone, minds fractured. They disappear quietly because nobody looks loudly." LeBron nodded. "If I gave you resources, could you find him?" "Resources help the system, voices help the people. Which one are you to?" The question stayed with him as he drove back into the rain. That night he stopped at a gas station and watched the evening news on a flickering TV. Above the counter, a panel of experts discussed his silence. He hasn't commented in days. Some say he's planning a documentary. Classic crisis control. Reframe the narrative. Profit from empathy. He smiled bitterly. They couldn't imagine a world where silence wasn't strategy, where it was morning. At midnight, his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "He's in Kansas. Small shelter outside Wichita. But he doesn't want to see you." He stared at the screen for a long time, before replying, "I'll come anyway." The drive took 15 hours, flat roads, endless sky, thoughts like ghosts in the rearview mirror. When he arrived, the shelter was a converted church. The windows were boarded, but light leaked through the cracks like mercy, refusing to die. Inside, volunteers moved quietly among cots. An older woman recognized him. "You the basketball man?" "Yeah." He said you'd come, said he'd leave if you did. LeBron exhaled. "Then I won't stay long." Derek was in the back room, packing his things. A worn duffel, a blanket, A folded flag. He didn't look up. You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have vanished. I didn't vanish. I was a... Forgiveness doesn't come easy when the world profits from your pain. LeBron stepped closer. They turned our night into a circus. I didn't want that. You didn't have to want it. You're the machine, Bron. Even when you mean well, the gears spin. Cameras follow gravity, and you're the biggest object in the sky. LeBron looked down, then helped me change the orbit. Derek laughed once. Short, bitter. You can't change something that doesn't believe it's wrong. The silence between them was heavier than the night outside. Finally, LeBron reached into his pocket and handed him a folded note. This is a number. My foundation can set you up somewhere safe. No cameras, no stories, just peace. Peace isn't a place, Derek said. It's a choice, and I'm still figuring out how to make it. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. You know what hurt the most? That they saw me only because you were there. I had to stand next to a giant just to be visible. LeBron nodded slowly. Then I'll make sure next time the light hits everyone. Derek smiled faintly. Careful, light burns too. On the drive back, thunder rolled across the plains. Every flash of lightning reflected off the windshield like old highlights, moments frozen in applause. He realized he'd been living inside a constant replay, a world that loved what he did but ignored why he did it. He pulled over on an empty road and sat there as the rain drummed on the hood. He whispered, if truth is what we do when nobody's watching, then what do we become when everyone... He didn't need to fix the story anymore. He needed to free it. Back in Los Angeles, Malik was waiting in his office, surrounded by piles of paperwork and emails from sponsors. Bron, you vanished for a week. They're panicking. Good. Let them. What are you planning? LeBron placed a USB drive on the desk. Every clip, every headline, every lie. I want to show what they did. Not to me, to him. Malik frowned. That's suicide. You'll burn every bridge you've built. Maybe bridges aren't meant to last forever. He walked to the window, watching the city glow like circuitry, each light another pulse in the system that kept selling stories as salvation. You ever think about how fast truth fades? He asked quietly. Every day. Then maybe we should make it harder to forget. Malik sighed. You really want to fight the media machine? LeBron turned. No, I want to unplug it. He wasn't planning a comeback. He was planning an interruption. The next day, he announced a press conference. No sponsors, no team logo, just him, standing in front of a single camera in a small community gym. He didn't rehearse, didn't prepare notes. They turned a quiet act of humanity into a product. They called it inspiration, but inspiration without truth is manipulation. I met a man who gave his country everything, and when the world forgot him, we made a show out of remembering. That's not charity, that's theft. I'm done performing goodness. From now on, if you want to know who I am, look at what happens when the lights go off. He ended the stream without taking questions. The reaction was immediate. Some praised him for speaking truth to power. Others accused him of hypocrisy. Networks debated whether his speech was anti-corporate or strategically rebellious. But among the noise, one small clip began to spread. A low-quality video taken from a phone in a Kansas shelter. It showed Derek sitting on his cot, watching LeBron's speech on an old TV. He didn't say a word, but when the reporter asked what he thought, he smiled faintly and said, "You finally played without a scoreboard." For the first time, the story wasn't about who LeBron was, it was about who the world had become. The night after the press conference, Los Angeles glowed brighter than usual, as if the city was trying to drown his silence in light. Every news network replayed the speech on loop. Some slowed it down, others cut pieces to fit their angles. LeBron lashes out against the media machine. LeBron's meltdown, a new PR strategy. Is the king losing control? He watched each version for a few seconds before turning off the TV. The silence that followed felt heavier than the noise. Malik showed up an hour later, briefcase in hand, tie loose, eyes sharp. You caused a digital earthquake, he said. Good. Maybe something buried will surface. You realize they're already rebranding your rebellion. Hashtags, merch, the whole package. LeBron shook his head. Let them sell my image. I'm keeping my intention. He had spent years mastering control on the court. Off it. The game was chaos, and he was finally ready to play without a referee. Malik set down his laptop. I found something. You remember Vault 47, the corporate server cluster that handled most live sports feeds? LeBron nodded slowly. Turns out, they don't just store footage, they store metadata, predictive algorithms. Engagement filters. The stuff that decides what the public should care about, including your so-called charity video. You mean they edited emotion? Worse, they simulated it. Automated empathy. He leaned forward. If we can access it, we can show people how their reality's been curated. LeBron frowned. You're saying the system didn't just twist the story, it built it. Exactly. He stared at the dark window where the city lights looked like tiny red recording dots. Then we break it open. Malik raised an eyebrow. That's not journalism, Bron. That's war. Then call me a soldier. 2 nights later, they parked outside a faceless concrete building in downtown LA. A data facility. No logo, no guards visible, but too many cameras to count. Malik tapped at his tablet, rerouting feeds through a proxy network. You've got 10 minutes before the system flags our intrusion. I only need 5. Inside, rows of servers hummed like beehives. The blue glow painted the room in a ghostly calm. LeBron moved through the aisles until he found the labeled rack, a 47 archive. He pulled a drive, plugged it into Malik's rig, and the screens exploded with lines of code, words, phrases, and timestamps flashing faster than the eye could follow. There were clips, headlines, fabricated tweets, deleted comments, every digital fingerprint of his story, stitched together into something designed to feel spontaneous. Look at this, Malik said, scrolling. They even simulated engagement, fake accounts arguing about whether you were sincere. LeBron stared, jaw tight. They built both sides of the argument. Manufactured division sells better than truth. They hadn't reported his story. They'd rehearsed it for profit, for power, for control. As they copied the data, a voice echoed from the entrance. You shouldn't be here. LeBron turned. It was Derek, standing in the doorway, drenched from rain, holding a cracked phone. How did you find us? You didn't exactly make it subtle, Derek said. Every vet shelter has been whispering about you, the athlete who finally lost his mind. LeBron smiled faintly. Maybe sanity's overrated. You're not fighting them, Bron. You're feeding them. Every click, every post, every time you react, they win. LeBron stepped closer. Then help me end the game. Derek hesitated, eyes flicking to the glowing servers. I saw the broadcast, he said quietly. You told the truth. But truth without risk doesn't change anything. You sure you're ready for the fallout? I'm already living in it. Together they pulled the final files, Malik's hands shaking slightly over the keyboard. We can leak this, but they'll spin it within hours, he said. LeBron thought for a moment. Then we won't leak it. We'll show it live. No edits, no narration, just data, frame by frame. Malik blinked. A live stream? Yeah, people deserve to see how their stories are written and rewritten. He wasn't chasing fame anymore, he was chasing friction. The sound truth makes when it hits the system. They set up the broadcast from Malik's office. An independent signal, untraceable, routed through hundreds of servers. The title, unedited. At 3 a.m., the feed went live. It began with silence. Then footage, raw files from the archives played one after another. The real diner video. The editing room. Footage. Emails from executives discussing sympathy optimization. Even algorithms predicting which parts of his face triggered more engagement. Within minutes, millions were watching. Comments flooded in. Is this real? We've been manipulated. They built our empathy for profit. Network engineers tried to pull the stream, but every time they shut it down, it reappeared on another mirror site. It spread faster than censorship. At sunrise, the system fought back. Corporate accounts issued statements calling the footage deepfakes. Influencers were paid to cast doubt. The league released a glossy PR clip titled, "We Stand with Truth." But the damage was done. Ordinary people had recorded, downloaded, and shared everything. Screens across the world played the same truth on repeat, a quiet act of kindness, twisted into a product, and now restored as a mirror. LeBron stood by the window as dawn light filled the office. You think it'll change anything? Malik asked. It already did. Now they can't pretend not to know. And us? We go quiet. Derek looked at him, tired but alive. You just ended your career. LeBron smiled. Maybe I just started my purpose. He had spent his life trying to control his narrative. Now he had finally let it speak for itself. Hours later, FBI vans surrounded the building. Malik backed up files onto encrypted drives and tossed one to Derek. Back up. just in case the truth needs a second chance. LeBron turned toward the window, sirens reflecting off his face. They can erase footage, but not memory. He opened the office door, stepped into the hallway, and walked calmly toward the light flooding in from the stairwell. Reporters shouted. Cameras flashed. Officers advanced. Someone yelled, "Do you regret it?" He didn't answer, because some answers aren't meant for cameras. They're meant for conscience. The broadcast couldn't be stopped, but neither could the silence that followed, a silence that would echo louder than applause. The sun rose quietly over Los Angeles, but it felt like a different city. The night before, millions had watched the stream that no network could control. Every frame was still replaying across feeds on phones, laptops, street projectors, even the screens inside subway cars. For once the world wasn't watching highlights. It was watching honesty. Government agencies denied involvement. Corporations denied manipulation. Sponsors cut ties. Journalists called it the leak that changed sports. But the people didn't call it anything. They just watched, some in disbelief, others in relief, as the illusion cracked open. LeBron stayed silent. He'd gone to ground again, staying with Malik in a small safe house near the Nevada border. No social media, no interviews, no entourage. Just him, Malik, Derek, and the weight of what they'd unleashed. When truth finally breathes, it doesn't roar, it whispers, and waits to see who listens. Days passed, then weeks. The noise faded, replaced by a strange calm. People weren't sure what to believe anymore, and maybe that was the point. LeBron sat by the window each night, staring at the desert horizon. He wasn't planning his next move. He was learning how to not move. Derek repaired old radios in the corner, quietly humming to himself. "You know," he said one evening, "when I was deployed, we used to send messages in silence, no words, just static patterns. That's how we knew who was really out there. The static told us someone was listening." LeBron nodded. "Maybe that's what this is, static before a new signal." Malik laughed softly from the kitchen. "You two sound like prophets." LeBron smiled. "Just tired men trying to stay awake." One morning, they woke to find the power cut. Then came the sound. Helicopters, distant at first, then circling overhead. Malik looked out the window. "They found us." LeBron packed the drives. Derek grabbed the radio. They split up. Malik heading east with one car. LeBron and Derek west with another. For miles, dust trailed behind them, like memory, trying to keep up. Hours later, LeBron got a message on the burner phone. Malik, detained, files safe. He closed his eyes. For the first time in months he prayed, not for safety but for meaning. He'd spent years fighting to be seen. Now he realized freedom begins when you stop needing to be watched. He and Derek crossed into Arizona, by nightfall, ditching the car in an abandoned gas station. They followed dirt roads, until they reached an old mining town, a place long forgotten, yet still standing. Inside a boarded-up church, Derek set down his duffel and said, "This is as far as I go." LeBron frowned. "You're not coming. I've been running from ghosts my whole life. Time I start talking to them." He extended his hand. "Whatever happens, you did right by me. You turned noise into something that meant something." LeBron gripped his hand tight. "No man, you reminded me what meaning looks like." Derek smiled. "Then we're even." He walked into the night, disappearing like smoke. LeBron stayed behind in the church, alone with silence and dust. For the first time in years, there was no brand to protect, no image to defend. He picked up a piece of chalk from the floor and wrote on the wall, "Truth doesn't trend, it returns." He stood there for a while, reading the words as if they belonged to someone else. Then he turned and walked outside. When fame dies, the human being underneath either collapses or resurrects. Months passed. The media storm cooled, replaced by new scandals, new distraction. But the echo remained. Fragments of the unedited stream, resurfacing across the internet, played in classrooms, in churches, in community centers. Anonymous users translated his speech into 50 languages. Nobody knew who uploaded them. Nobody needed to. In Akron, a mural appeared overnight. It wasn't his face this time. It was two hands, one holding a basketball, the other holding a folded flag. Underneath, in spray paint, "Play free." LeBron eventually returned home. His house felt smaller, quiet. He walked through rooms filled with trophies and jerseys that no longer looked like achievements, just chapters of someone else's book. In the living room, The TV was still frozen on a paused interview from months ago. His own face stared back, smiling mechanically. He turned it. That night he went to his old high school gym, empty, dusty, but alive with ghosts. He shot free throws in silence. Each bounce of the ball echoed like a heartbeat. After 20 shots, he sat down on the floor, breathing deeply. He had played in front of millions. But this was the first game that mattered. The next morning, he opened the door to find a letter slipped under the mat. No name, just a single line, written in neat handwriting. The truth is safer in many hands than one legend's shadow. Inside the envelope was a flash drive, identical to the one Malik had carried. He plugged it into his old laptop. Inside were folders titled Voices, Stories, Forgotten. Each contained short videos, people telling their own truths, unedited, from shelters, schools, hospitals, and small towns. No commentary, no framing, just life. He smiled through tears. Malik had found a way. Truth hadn't been buried, it had multiplied. Weeks later, LeBron walked into a community center in Akron, where kids were gathered around old monitors, editing short documentaries. One of them looked up. He stopped himself. You were him. LeBron grinned. Still am, just not the version you watch. He joined them on the floor, teaching them how to frame light, how to listen, how to see. Don't film heroes, he told them. Film humans. Heroes are what the system sells you when it's scared of people thinking for themselves. The kids nodded. The cameras rolled. It wasn't a comeback. It was a beginning. He'd spent a lifetime performing stories. Now he was helping others tell theirs. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city, he stood outside the gym, same one from years ago, and watched the streetlights flicker on. He whispered to himself. They filmed the game, but not the grace. His phone buzzed. An unknown number again. Still playing King. He smiled. Always. Just changed courts. He turned it off and slipped it into his pocket. Then he walked down the street, blending into the crowd. No entourage, no cameras, no crown, just another man, moving forward. When night fell, the city lights reflected off a billboard being replaced by workers. The old ad, his face smiling next to a corporate logo, peeled away to reveal a new mural underneath. A soldier and an athlete, walking side by side under the words, "The world filmed their strength. Nobody filmed their silence." He stopped to look at it, eyes glistening. A quiet laugh escaped his chest. Then he whispered, "Maybe that's the point." He kept walking as the wind caught the edges of the old poster, tearing it completely free. He had spent a lifetime proving his great. Now, he was learning the greater art, disappearing without being forgotten.